everyone, it's Hailey, and today I'm going to be doing a Bookish Would You Rather. I'm sure someone has done something like this before, but for some reason I've never thought of it, and I came up with the idea the other day, and then I asked you guys on Instagram for prompts, and oh my goodness, did you guys come through. I got so many responses and they are all so good. So I did screenshot a few, but I just got overwhelmed because there were so many good ones. So I'm actually just going to like scroll through and actively pick them while I'm filming. I just love the responses that you guys came up with, and I for sure will be doing this again. I love these kinds of videos where I can just sit down and like have fun with it. It's just fun little questions, like these little challenge things, but I can never come up with ideas for them. So I am so glad that I have a new one to do today. But if you guys ever have any ideas for these fun little like challenge type videos, please do let me know because they are so fun to do. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So for these things, I always ask on Instagram. So you can follow me on Instagram. It's just at Hailey in Bookland, but I always use my stories to ask for things. I love videos where you guys can participate. I think it's so much fun. So I often am asking for a lot of things, and sometimes you don't see the videos until like a month, sometimes even a year later, but they do come eventually. So the very first one that I saw that I was like, oh my goodness, this is absolutely amazing is, would you rather go on an adventure with Alice or join the crows in a heist? I love this question so much because like it's such contrasting things, but they are some of my favorite characters and my favorite stories. So it might surprise you actually, but I would not choose to go on an adventure in Wonderland with Alice. I would rather go on a heist with the crows. And I am kind of torn in that one. I feel like with the crows, like my anxiety would just be like, oh my goodness, but I would just like let them do their thing and I would just hang back and be like, you got this, guys, like you're doing great, sweetie. That would just be me, and I would just reap the rewards of things. So that would be an interesting situation, but like hanging out with the crows in general just seems amazing. Like everything about that I love. It sounds fabulous. The reason that I wouldn't choose Wonderland and going with Alice is because Wonderland really just rejects Alice entirely. Every twist and turn, she is just being like, everyone's so rude to her, everyone's ridiculing her and like making all these riddles, and she has no clue what's happening, and I don't want that. Like, I feel like with the high stakes situation of the crows on a heist, I could get through that more than like going through Wonderland, not knowing where I am, just trying to like chill, you know, find my way, and just having like these flowers yelling at me and like queens yelling at me and all of that stuff. Like that just sounds way more stressful to me. So rather than have a world that rejects me, I would go on a heist, which is something I never thought I would say. Quite a few people actually asked this next one, which was kind of interesting to me, but would you rather never read a contemporary again or never read historical fiction again? This is really hard because I love contemporary a lot, but I also love historical fiction. A lot of my favorite books are contemporary and a lot are also historical fiction. I have to say, I probably would rather never read a contemporary again, which might seem surprising in a way, but like I feel like contemporary, I love it, but historical fiction I always just feel so impacted by. It's not that I don't get that with contemporary, but historical fictions tend to be the books that blow me away the most. I have such an interest in history, and I don't know if that's what it is, but like I always just, there are so many historical fictions that stick out in my mind that I constantly go to recommend those books to people. I can't explain it, like more than any other genre really. I feel like when people in real life approach me asking for a recommendation, I always go to historical fiction. I recommend it to my mom all the time. I recommend it to my sisters all the time. It's just kind of my go-to genre for recommendations. I don't know why, but to me that says that that genre like just really means a lot to me. And I think that's why, like, I can get, you know, contemporary, you can get reality all the time, but historical fiction, it's something special. So that is like really close, but I think I would have to go with never reading a contemporary again. Next is, would you rather have only paperbacks or only hardcovers? And it might surprise you once again. I don't know why I think these things are surprising. Like, they're probably not. You're like, it's not that deep, but like, whatever. I would rather have paperbacks. I love a good paperback. I like having kind kind of an even mix, but I just think for readability, I really prefer paperbacks. They're floppier, like they're easier to just hold open. I don't know, there's just something about them that I really like a good paperback. So not like the UK ones where they're stiff and like they don't have any flop to them. It has to be the really floppy paperbacks. It's not that I don't like hardcovers, it's just there's something about a good paperback that I like. I don't know how else to explain that. Next is, would you rather have a book with a bad plot and awesome characters, or a great plot with boring characters? That's really interesting. I think that for me personally, see, that's hard because there's certain books that like I love the characters and the characters really stick out to me, but the plot was kind of meh, but I still really loved it. But then there's also kind of the opposite thing where I didn't love the characters, but the plot was amazing. I think though that I would have to say a book with great characters, but a mediocre plot, because for me, I think the characters are what makes the book. I'm reading for characters. They are who like gets into my heart. They are who I'm trying to connect with as I'm reading. So if I have a connection with the characters, I can kind of get over a plot that maybe isn't so great. Like, I think character-driven stories are what tend to be my preference because I just love having a connection with a book, and that's how I have a connection. So as much as I love a good plot, I think characters are kind of overall the most important thing for me. Would you rather read an entire trilogy without sleeping at all, or read an entire series with nothing else in between? I have to say I would rather read an entire trilogy without sleeping at all, because that's something I've done. Like, it kind of depends on the trilogy, but I feel like Hunger Games, I read that so quickly. The Selection is definitely one that I could do that with, probably Shadow and Bone as well. Like, there are definitely trilogies where I could do that, but a really long series, if I'm not reading anything in between, I would probably fall into a reading slump. Now, I do say that, but like the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe I would rather read a series, but I think I'm gonna stick with my original answer, though this one is kind of closer than I realized. Would you rather only read 1- and 2-star books, or forget any books that would be 5 stars? Ooh, I feel like that's kind of, it ends up being the same thing. Like, because if you're only reading 1- and 2-star books, you really don't ever get to experience 5-star books. But I feel like that's interesting. I think I would probably rather only read, like, sorry, I was getting distracted by literally nothing. I think I would rather forget the 5-star books. Yes. Because there's a lot of 4-star and 4.5 star and like all of that, even though I don't give ratings anymore, obviously, like I still know kind of where the books fall, but there's a lot of books falling into that range that I still really love. So as much as like it would suck to forget the 5-star books, at least I would still be able to read them and experience them, rather than having, like, if every single book that I read is 1 and 2 stars, I'm eventually going to fall out of love with reading because I'm not reading things that I like. So it doesn't make sense that like I would want to keep on reading. So I think I would have more luck with if I forget my 5-star books, which obviously would be absolutely tragic, but you know, at least I would still get to read them. Would you rather only read your favorite book or never get to read your favorite book? So I would rather never get to read my favorite book, because if I'm reading the same book over and over again, once again, I'm eventually gonna get bored. As much as it's my favorite, like, I just won't want to read as much, and I am a person who gets bored super easily. That's why I don't really love like long series or big books. That's why I struggle with them, because I want to move on to a new world. I want to discover new characters and new landscapes, new plots, all of that stuff. So just getting to read one book would be so much harder for me than reading my favorite book over and over again, because I want new things all the time. So that one is a pretty easy one for me. Would you rather live in a fantasy universe and leave behind your family and friends, or never get the same chance again? I would definitely rather like never get that chance again, because one, I think all fantasy universes can be kind of scary, and like I guess my anxiety is like, no thank you. But I mean, family and friends are so important to me. It's definitely the #1 thing. So like I would never want to go somewhere where I'm never going to see them again. That just sounds like an absolute nightmare and not a fantasy at all. I would be miserable, so absolutely not. I would rather just stay in reality and still have my family and friends. Would you rather rip a book or get a book wet? I would 100% rather rip a book. Like, I'm assuming, I mean, you probably mean like really dramatically rip it, but you could just like rip a teeny bit and it would still be fine. There is nothing that I hate more than when a book gets wet and then like the pages dry and it becomes like an accordion, like it's huge. I've only had that happen I think once before, where I can't remember if I was like in the bath and I dropped it or I like spilled a water bottle on it. I don't know. It was when I was a teenager or something like that. I think I was younger, so it was before I really liked reading, but it was that series I was talking about. I think Confessions of a Hollywood. I don't know. The covers look like purses. I'm pretty sure that's the one. I don't know if it was that one or if it was the Confessions of a Hollywood Starlet, or True Confessions. I don't know. There's like 2 Hollywood books that I read when I was a kid and I always get them mixed up, but it was the second book of either of those series and I got it all wet and it was like destroyed and I was so sad about it, and I never read that book because I was so annoyed. Like, I just didn't pick it up again because I was like, it's soaking wet. It was so hard to read, so I gave up on it entirely, even though I really enjoyed that series. So definitely would rather just rip a book. Would you rather never read again or read but the last 5 chapters of every book are missing? For sure would rather read but the last 5 chapters are missing because I can just make it up. Like, I feel like it gets to a point where you can kind of see where things are going. Obviously, there are some plot twists that come in that last little bit, but like, it's fine, you know, I get most of the story and at least I'm able to read something. That's really what it comes down to. As long as I'm able to read something, experience new things, then that's definitely the choice I'm gonna go with. Would you rather fold the corner of a page or lose your place? I think I would probably rather lose my place. I mean, is it like you lose your place and then you can never find it again? Because there's often times where, like right now, my bookmarks are already packed, so I haven't been using a bookmark and I just closed the book and like I kind of remember roughly where I was before, but it takes me a little bit to get to exactly where. So I don't know if it means like that or like you lose your place and then you have to like start again. Because if that's the case, then I would rather fold the page. But if it's just like you have to kind of find it over and over again every time you open the book again, then I would just rather do that because that would be fine. So that's not a clear answer, but it depends. It's situational. Okay, this makes me laugh. So there's a reason it makes me laugh and it won't make sense right away. But read 1,000 books. Would you rather read 1,000 books a year and forget everything after reading them, or read 10 and remember everything? So the funny part about this is, and Liv from Stories for Coffee actually posted a reel about this recently, I have read so many of the books behind me and I could not tell you like a single thing about them. My memory when it comes to books is terrible. It is my fatal flaw, my Achilles heel. I cannot remember, no matter like how fast or how slow I read a book, I can't remember the characters' names. I have a hard time remembering the plot and everything. Like, it is just a process, okay? So my point with that is that like, I would rather read 1,000 books a year and forget everything because I'm gonna forget it anyways. So obviously, like, if I can read 10 and remember, that would be cool, but like I said, I get bored. So if I can read 1,000 books, like, I always get stressed out about the fact that there's so many books that I want to read and I'm never going to be able to read all of them. So that would like eliminate that. I'd be able to get to like so many of them, so many books that I have to unhaul because I'm like, I do want to read this, but like realistically, I'm not really going to have time, but I wouldn't have to do that anymore. So yes, I would go with 1,000 books, but you forget everything because I'm already used to that. Even though it is tragic, I just can't help it. So that's just how it is. Would you rather binge a completed series or only read standalones? That one is kind of hard. I know that I said that I don't really like series, but there are some series that I do really enjoy. So I think the main problem that I usually have with series is that I like I said, I want to experience new things, but the other thing is if I'm reading a series while it's coming out, by the time the next book comes out, I have completely forgotten everything, like I said. So I think if it was a completed series, I might eliminate that, but I think on the other hand, I would probably go with standalones. I think a lot of my favorite books are standalones because a lot of my favorite genres mostly are standalones. Like obviously fantasy is a favorite genre of mine, but like historical fiction, contemporary, it's mostly standalone. So I would go with standalones, although like that is kind of closer than it might seem. Would you rather get rid of all of your copies of Alice in Wonderland or every single book that you own? I would rather get rid of all of my copies of Alice in Wonderland. I know that probably seems kind of surprising, but like I just love to collect them, but that doesn't mean like it's the only book that I would want to own. I would rather have a giant collection of all of the different books and like very different stories than just have that one. Even though I have like so many beautiful editions that mean so much to me and I love them so much, I just know that like I would rather just have all of the books behind me than just that one shelf that's over there. Would you rather crack the spine or dog-ear the pages? I would rather dog-ear the pages. I don't like cracked spines, which is one of the reasons why I really hate UK paperbacks, because there's no way around it. It's like mass market paperbacks. It's the same. Like they're never really floppy. You have to crack the spine in order to read it. And as careful as you are, you will still crack the spine. And that to me is just a pet peeve because I like my books to like look nice on my shelves. So with a cracked spine, it just doesn't look as nice. Even though I definitely do have some of those books where they do have cracked spines, I would rather dog-ear the pages because I don't think that's that big of a deal. Like I don't do it personally just because I have a lot of bookmarks and I just won't use one if I don't have one, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like it shows that a book has been read and well loved. Like as much as I say I like my books to look nice on my shelves, I also don't mind if they look like they've been read because like that's the purpose that they have. That is what they are supposed to do. It's just a cracked spine does kind of bug me, but I feel like dog-earing pages is kind of like having little notes, like annotations, and that is something that I really enjoy. Even though I don't do it personally, like I love the idea of getting a book and having it annotated and you're able to see like what someone before you thought when they were reading it or like what you thought when you read it that first time. Would you rather read a multiple point of view book or a single point of view? I really like multiple points of view. I really love characters, so getting to see different sides of things I find to be so fascinating. And it's funny because I feel like I could never, I mean maybe, but I don't know how successful I would be with writing a multiple point of view book. For some reason that's so intimidating to me, but I love an interesting use of perspective. I love how Sarah J Maas uses perspective, Libba Bray, like I have so many books where there are multiple perspectives and they are some of my favorites because I like to see what other characters are thinking. There's kind of some dramatic irony added into there as well, which is a lot of fun. So getting more perspectives rather than one is definitely a preference of mine. Would you rather hate a loved book or love a hated book? I feel like there are a lot of instances of both of those for me, but I think I would rather hate a loved book. Because I feel like there's always comments saying, am I the only one who hated that book? Which like, no, you're not. Like for popular books, that happens all the time. You absolutely aren't. Like not everyone loves every single book. You are definitely not alone, but I don't mind like missing out on the hype for things because I feel like there's so, I don't know how to describe it. Like this is making literally no sense, but I think I would rather that. Like there are some books that a lot of people hate that I love, but I think hating a loved book is something that happens to me more often, so I'm kind of more used to that. Ooh, this one's really interesting. So would you rather just read one genre for the rest of your life or only read books from one author? That's kind of tricky. I think I would rather just read one genre because I mean, you could pick an author that like writes a lot of different things, but I think that I would be more limited because like an author can only write so much, so that would be a limitation. And then they do tend to write like in similar genres, they have similar styles and similar, not really similar characters, but like, I don't know. I think I would just prefer to read one genre because there are so many options with a lot of genres, like so many different variants on different things, and I think that I would prefer that. Would you rather read a happy ending or a sad ending? I want to say happy ending, but at the same time, I really love a book that like makes me sad and makes me emotional. So I think I honestly, if I'm like really thinking about it, I would probably rather read a book with a sad ending. I think those are the ones that leave me thinking, they surprise me, and it always ends up like those are the ones that I talk about the most and love the most generally. I actually filmed a video recently, I'm not sure if it'll be up before or after this one, but about books that make me cry, so, or will make you cry, and you know, those obviously a lot of them have really sad endings, or bittersweet really. Would you rather only get to read during the night or only get to read books someone else chose for you? I feel like on the one hand, I wouldn't mind only getting to read at night because like I try to be a morning person, but really I'm a night owl. I could stay up all night. Like I haven't really been doing that lately because I've been trying to be a morning person, but I do also kind of like the idea of someone else choosing what I read because it would push me out of my comfort zone. On the other hand, I am such a mood reader that if someone picks something that like I'm not going to like or pushes me too far out or I'm not in the mood for, then I wouldn't want to read at all. So maybe I would rather read at night. I think, yeah, I'm gonna go with reading at night. Okay, there's a lot of like Shadow and Bone themed questions because of the Netflix show, so it makes sense, but would you rather sell your soul to the Darkling or be forced to only read horror for the rest of your life? For sure, I would sell my soul to the Darkling. Like, I know that, especially if it's Ben Barnes, like, absolutely, that is what I would do. That seems like the ideal choice, even though, you know, he's not the best. Like, the Darkling isn't the greatest character to be sold to, but it's fine. I could deal. I really don't like horror. I'm an absolute chicken, so I would rather like just do that. I would, you know, selling my soul, that's not that big of a deal. I would rather do that than read horror. So I'll do a couple more here. So would you rather be missing every 100th word or every 100th page? I think I would rather be missing every 100th word because I feel like by context with the sentence, I could probably fill it in. Whereas a 100th page, like that could be something really important. You would be missing like part of the story, and I think it would like kind of disrupt my reading more. Meanwhile, with a word, I think I would fill in the blanks and figure it out on my own. I have a lot of faith in myself apparently, because in reality I'd be like, what? But oh well. I'm just going to pick one last one, and then like I said, I will totally do this again. Like I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. I think this is so fun. I don't know. I like thinking about these different things. So would you rather be always spoiled with the end or never be able to read the first chapter of a book? I think I would rather be spoiled with the end, to be honest, because I don't really care that much. I mean, I do care about spoilers and I try to avoid them, but with like TV shows and stuff, I will spoil myself all the time. And I feel like I wouldn't really care that much with books. However, I feel like first chapters also don't really stand out to me that much. I kind of forget first chapters, like you're still getting into the story. So that is kind of another close one, but I guess I would go with, I'll go with being spoiled, because I don't know. I think like at least I would get to read it and see how the ending ends up. But like I said, first chapters I'm kind of meh about usually, but yeah. Okay, so that is going to be all for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much to everyone who left Would You Rathers. You guys came up with so many great ones and I didn't even like get to scroll through all of them. There are literally so many of them. So definitely going to have to do this again in the future. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed and I will see you in a new one soon. Bye!